Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Adam here with Retro Repairs, and I'm doing something a little different here. So today I was at Walmart picking up some rolls of paper towel, and I decided to check out the electronics section. And lo and behold, they had two of these remaining, the Super Nintendo Classic Edition. So I couldn't just leave it there, so I figured why not grab one and try and make a quick video out of this. So this isn't going to be like the normal reviews that you see online where I turn it on, I play a few games, tell you what I think. I'm going to open this up, I'm going to unbox it, and I'm going to tear right into it. We're going to crack it open, see what really makes it run. I never had a Nintendo Classic Edition, so this is going to be kind of brand new for me here. So I'm really excited to see how this goes. So yeah, let's check it out. So first thing you notice, there's no cellophane shrink wrap or anything. It's just a box. So, I mean, there's no seals, nothing like that. So it's going to be very hard for anyone to try and sell this as sealed, guaranteeing that it's brand new. Maybe that's the strategy of Nintendo, trying to cut down on scalpers, but who knows. So let's tear right into it here. So, take a look at the box first. So on the box it shows, it looks like the 21 games that come included with it. Right off the hop, I don't see... Oh, there it is right there, Star Fox 2. So that's the big one. Star Fox 2 was a nearly completed game that Nintendo was working on that they canceled right before the N64 came out. So Star Fox 2 never was officially released until basically last Friday, so about a week ago. So that's kind of one of the big draws of this, is having an unreleased original Nintendo game finally seeing the daylight. So that's pretty cool. Let's go right into here. So we have the original Nintendo or Super Nintendo instruction guide, and this says something about Super Mario World. I wonder if this is it is. So we have a Super Mario World poster. Yeah, kind of cool. And on the back side, it looks like instructions on how to set this whole thing up. So I'm not even going to look at the instructions for now. We're just going to skip right on past. Warranty, user agreement information. Again, nothing important to me anyways. So let's throw this back in here. You'll have to excuse the whining in the background. Those are puppies, so those weren't present in my past videos. So this is going to be the actual console itself. So there we have it, the original, or the Super Nintendo Classic. You might see a nose right here. That's my dog Kona. That's pretty interested in this as well. So she's a Sega fangirl, not a Nintendo girl, but she can still appreciate the classics. So that's the console here. It looks like it uses the power and reset buttons to actually control the power and reset. Cartridge door obviously doesn't open, it doesn't take cartridges, and the eject button doesn't do anything either. On the front, the controller ports, these aren't real, so you can't plug anything into it, but it looks like it opens up. I'm not quite sure how. Seems kind of silly. It should open up easier than this. There we go. You gotta take it from the bottom. And then we have the ports to actually hook up the controllers. So I didn't really read into it a whole lot, but these look an awful lot like the controller ports on a Wiimote. Let me grab one here quickly. Those are exactly the controller ports, like the expansion port for the nunchucks. So maybe that means, I wonder if these controllers would work on a Wii as a classic controller. Something I might have to test out. On the back we have micro USB for power and HDMI out. So otherwise that's about it for the system. We'll just set that aside, see what else comes with it. So we have Nintendo power block. It's got Nintendo written on the face of it here so you don't mix it up with your iPhone power block or Samsung block. Not that it will make any difference. This particular block, let's see, outputs 1.5 amps at 5 volts, so pretty standard pretty standard USB block. Controller, and underneath we have HDMI cable, also Nintendo branded. I don't know if you can see that, there we go. And a USB cord, which does not appear to be Nintendo branded. No, I don't see anything. So we're going to put those back in because those are pretty standard with anything you buy these days. And let's check out the controllers. So that's the controller, and actually what I'm going to do is grab another actual Super Nintendo controller and we'll compare it a little bit. I just want to see what the difference between them is. Alright, so that's the actual real Super Nintendo controller on the bottom, and the one that came with the Super Nintendo Classic is on the top. And I must say, they are strikingly similar. My original one seems slightly discolored, and that's probably just due to the yellowing effect of the plastic. Looking at the back, the Nintendo information is different. So Super NES controller is on the original one, and then it just says Nintendo model CLV-202 made in China, and then it has your basic markings that most electronics these days have right there, which is not present on the original Super Nintendo controller. But I'm going to put that aside, and I think later we might try crack that open and see how the internals look. One thing I was toying with the idea of is converting one of them into a Super Famicom style controller. So just moving the buttons over and using the kind of PAL color scheme or Super Famicom color scheme instead of the North American one on one of my controllers. But we'll get into that a little bit later. What I'm more interested in right now is checking out the actual system itself. So with no further ado, let's see how to get into this. So flip it open, and I bet you it's underneath these feet. There we go. So the little rubber feet, and yeah, so there's just a little crosshead screwdriver, which I'm going to need to get a smaller screwdriver because it's pretty deep in there. Okay, so let's try and get into this. So, like I said, just 4 standard mini crosshead or Phillips screws is all that keeps this together. Okay, so crack it open just like that, and if you're opening this up yourself, do be careful of this ribbon connector, which connects the slides here to power on and reset to the rest of the board. So looking inside here, nothing too special. I'm going to take these screws out and look at this little subboard. Now one thing I want to check out, are all these screws the same? And it looks like they are. So the ones that hold the board down are the same as the ones for the casing. So that's just the power and reset switch. So reset right here, and then the power switch up and down. Nothing too special, just a very basic circuit board. And then these switches, they just slide up and down, so I'm not going to disassemble these. It looks like this eject button pops out, so you could probably pop that off, but again, it's just there for show. It doesn't actually do anything. So I'm not going to disassemble that right away. And I'm not going to take apart the cable, just because these are the type of cables here that once you disconnect and reconnect them too many times, it kind of scratches up and causes problems with the contacts, which we don't want. So I'm just going to sit that right here and delve into the rest of this. So we're going to take this heat sink and shielding off. And again, these seem to be the exact same screws present throughout the rest of it. And that's where a magnetic screwdriver really comes in handy, because these screws are very small and don't want to lose them or have them get stuck under here and then I have to dump it over and throw them on the ground and everything. Okay, so 4 screws, I think that's all of them. And this should pop just right off. Not sure what else is holding, there we go. Oh, so there was some heat sink compound, so I'm going to have to make sure to put that back on. But that sits right on top of this chip, and it looks basically the same as the original NES or original Nintendo Classic. So same basic board, they probably just reprogrammed it with different software, because essentially it does the same thing. It has the same ports, the ports plug in right into here. So controller 2, controller 1. On the back here we have HDMI and micro USB. I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of this last screw, and we're going to lift this board right off. So I think that's, yep, that's it. So just flipping it over, nothing special here. There's a capacitor, that's your HDMI port, that's your micro USB port, and some sort of chip here, some sort of controller maybe. I'm not, it's probably a either a PPU chip or something that controls HDMI. I'm not exactly positive how HDMI works, but I'm willing to bet that has something to do with it. So, nothing really too special with that. Just it's your basic motherboard, CPU, graphics chip, and that's about it. So I'm going to reassemble this, and we're going to get started on the controllers. I want to take a look at those and see how they work. So try and get this put back into place. That way I took it off, pushing down on this chip a bit to get that bond back. And just screw it all back together. So I think there were 4 screws on this heatsink. Being careful, of course, not to strip any of the screws, because should this ever have to go back to Nintendo for warranty, I don't want them to know that I've been in here. And then, of course, can't forget this motherboard, or not this motherboard, this subboard. How do I put it in? Right here. So one thing you want to do is make sure that the power switch still switches properly. If you have it in the wrong place, it just might not work, but let's see. There we go. So 2 screws again. One and 2. Alright, so giving this a slight tug just to make sure it's still reattached, and then we put the lid back on. I'm going to put the 4 screws on here and replace the feet, and then we'll be back to crack open the controller. Okay, and last step, these little rubber feet have to go back. So the interesting thing about this is there were no warranty seals anywhere on this, so nothing that really showed that I've tampered with it at all. So I'm curious if Nintendo ever has to take any of these back for warranty or any type of recall, how they know who's been messing around with it. But there we are. So that's the Super Nintendo Classic. I'm going to put it back in its sleeve, and we're going to take a look at the controllers here. Alright, so the controller, I mean, like I kind of said before, it feels pretty good. Feels like what I'm used to with the original Super Nintendo controller, which I've got right here. It does have more of a powdery feel, so a bit more texture to it. I honestly can't remember how they felt back in the early 90s, so this obviously feels smoother because it's almost 30 years old now. But yeah, I must say they look pretty good. Even down to this little indent right here in the gray plastic. Indent, same idea. So I wonder if they reuse some of the old molds or not. So best way to find out is let's open it up and compare. So just like the original Super Nintendo controller, there's 6 screws. Okay, and it just comes apart just like so. So that's the back, and my dog's once again interested in this controller. I can't really blame her. She's been waiting a while to get her hands on one of these. So at first glance, I think it's a little different, but let's crack open the Super Famicom controller and compare. Functionally, actually technically, there's almost no difference between the Super Famicom and the Super Nintendo controller, so it shouldn't make a difference which one we open. But once again, the screws are slightly different, so I'm gonna have to find another screwdriver now. Okay, so I have a slightly bigger Phillips screwdriver for this, and like I said, we're going to open up this Super Famicom controller and compare the internals. So first thing to do, this is the original OEM screw, and this is the new Nintendo screw, and the new one is just slightly shorter. Not by much, but a little bit. So just something to kind of note there. So we got 4 more screws. Let's zoom out again. There we go. Okay, so split the case open. One of them still not quite released yet. There we go. Just want to be careful not to lose any of these. There. Okay, so at first glance, I mean, the shells look fairly different just from a general mold standpoint. One of the big things I notice is in the original controller, the bumpers have metal pins. In the remake, the bumpers are slightly different. They have plastic pins and the mold is a bit off. So let's move on from the back and take a look at the front side. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So at first glance, similar, but also different. So boards are a bit different. They both have, it looks like, a removable plug, so I could exchange the cord if need be. So let's lift this whole thing up and compare the front. So this is the front side of the Super Famicom, and this is the front side of the Super Nintendo board. Come on, there we go. So fairly, a little bit different. So the layout of the board's slightly different. I mean, all the buttons are in the same place. They work the same way. Correction, no they do not. The one thing that is different, start and select. So on the Super Nintendo board, start and select have these two pads. On the Super Famicom, or the original Super Nintendo board, there's only one pad. So that means that you need to have this specific pad that accompanies this board. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. So I was saying I want to put a Super Famicom face onto the Super Nintendo controller, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So this is the Super Famicom components. We are going to kind of just do an internal swap. So I'm going to see if this works. We're going to take the Start Select button out of here and put it into the Super Famicom. Seems to fit, sits in place nicely, so I think this is going to work pretty well. We're going to take the buttons there and move it over. Now this does not fit. So the difference here, the original pads have this little hole on the side, whereas the remade ones do not. Having said that, the pads are very similar, so I think we can get away with just leaving these in place. Obviously, we'll have to test it to make sure the buttons work properly, but we'll see what happens. And then same, I think, with the D-pad. I don't think we really need to alter any of that, so really all you need to change is the Start Select, and then maybe these bumpers. The bumpers are a little bit different, one square and one circle, so why not switch them around so that they match. Is the tips the same? They're very similar, so I don't think it matters, but we're going to switch them just to be on the safe side. Alright, so let's reinstall these bumpers. And then we'll set the Super Nintendo one aside and put the Super Nintendo Classic board on the Super Famicom controller shell. So flip it around and hopefully everything lines up. But of course it doesn't. So these posts are just off. So unfortunately, we can't do a full shell swap. So I guess we'll undo kind of what we've done here already. And I've got one more thing I want to try. So we'll put these back, and the bumpers, we'll switch those back. Okay, so the last thing that I want to try and do is a button swap. So let's see if these buttons can be exchanged. So we'll take the yellow, we'll put the yellow in here, So far, so good. Take the green, swap it for the green here. So this one doesn't really fit. Let's see if we can rotate. No, it does not fit. Crap. Maybe it will fit up here. No. So these little tabs on the buttons are just too wide. They just don't fit. That's kind of disappointing. Well, oh well. So let's put them back where we found them. So I could, in theory, widen out some of these holes so that the wider buttons could fit in place, but I'm not going to do that in this video. So unfortunately, we're going to have to kind of leave it as is. I can't create a Frankenstein Super Famicom Super Nintendo Classic controller without actually altering the shell a little bit. So that is too bad. I was kind of really looking forward to having something a little bit different, but oh well. Last thing, I doubt it, but I wonder if these cords are exchangeable. So this is the cord from the Super Famicom, and this cord actually doesn't come out. So that's about that. I'm gonna cut that off right away. That's not even possible. Also a notable, this one has 5 wires, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whereas this guy only has 4. So again, there would be more incompatibilities there. So I guess we will reassemble that and call it a video. I might make another one a little bit later where I actually boot this up and check it out and see kind of how it works, what I think of it, share my thoughts on it. But I'm not going to do that tonight. Tonight I just wanted to kind of unbox the Super Nintendo Classic. I wanted to show you how it looks inside and kind of just see what makes it run, what it came with, kind of give everyone a little bit of a glimpse of that. So thanks a lot for watching the video. I hope you found this interesting. Like I said, I just stumbled upon this at Walmart, so I truly believe that they will be a lot more readily available than they were with the original Nintendo Classic. So for those of you discouraged because you missed it on launch day, just be patient. I was patient. Don't spend $250, $300 from some scalper to get one of these. Just wait a week. That's all it took for me to get one of these. I just picked it up today and I'm making this video tonight. So give it some time, be patient, and when you get it, I'm sure it'll be a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to playing StarCraft 2. Not StarCraft 2, Star Fox 2, sorry. I'm looking forward to playing Star Fox 2. I never actually tried it before. I know there's unofficial ROM hacks of it floating around the internet, and I've never given that a go yet. So I'm looking forward to giving this a try and see how it goes. So once again, thanks a lot for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, give me a like, leave a comment below, let me know what you think. Let me know if there's something you want to see me make a video about again in the future, and subscribe to my channel. That way you'll be the first to know when I upload new content. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.